Last weekend, we drove from Columbia, I think that's 5 hours to get that view. So I just think this is on here, this is what's in the water, and I want to stand up. So, I can't be sure for it. So, someone answer.
Can you go in there and see if I can see?
He was 52 when he died. I mean, it's just what I really think happened at the end was Gary on my vacation. And I think about it.
You see if I can.
And I think she's
You want to
and I think it's
go in the other room and see if you can hear it?
they just said. Are you still working with Southwest?
I took right here, but they offer like a sleep program
Hello. Testing.
So I think the records.
Is this working? No.
It was for a minute, but then it was.
You can hear it. Hello. You can. Hello. No. Hello. So it's only seems to be working when it's in this.
It's working, there's just a little delay.
Okay, and then like you can hear it. Okay, and then is it?
Yeah, it looks good.
All right, so I think so keep.
Video on the screen.
And
And
this.
the speaker, yeah.
Yeah, you can. Hello. Maybe not. It says it's 6 inches. This whole time. Hi, everyone. It's just. Hello. I think it's put it out. It's still working. Hello. Testing. Test.
Yeah.
Also, we were. But you showed a good job, right? Yes, yes, and he has to do this president. You know, they say, 2 years later, it's not senior. She lives out.
All right, here. It's the live stream. Can you say hi? Try not to. Try to test.
Can you do the pictures?
Hang on. I did.
Daddy, go back to baby me.
Did you pick these out? They're excellent. I'm so glad you did this.
Baby me. It's been here a couple times. See baby me.
Hello. Hello. When it's in this thing, do we need it? Seems to be.
I'll take it. There.
Hello. 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 Okay. Is this working? Yes? You sure? Okay, it's hard to tell from here. Thanks for joining us today to celebrate Anne. Each of you here, friends, family, associates, people who helped Anne at various stages of her life. Thank you for being here. Each of you had a really, really special place in her life. And thank you if you're here in person, or thank you if you're online. Hopefully this is coming through okay. I'm Dan, Anne's stepson. Anne came into my life when I was only 7 years old. The last few years I've been Anne's guardian, as many of you might know, which is really weird because for many, many more years than that, Anne was my guardian in the fullest sense of the word. From the time we met, Anne made sure I read. I had to read an hour a day, every day, from a 7-year-old all the way until I was 18. It didn't matter. Initially, I thought, this is crazy. Why is she doing this to me? But then it became normal, and then it became something I looked forward to. An hour a day where I could just disappear into a new adventure or learn something totally new. The hours upon hours of reading over time, they added up. I went from a very average student, comfortably above average. I went to a good university, and then on to a good graduate school and a good career. I'm almost positive none of those things would have happened without Anne, introducing me to the joy of reading. During her career as a librarian in San Jose, California, and retirement as a board member of Triangle Literacy Council here in Wake County. No doubt she lit that fire for so many others as well. I'm in awe of the impact that she had on so many people. Anne was a fiercely independent person. She went to college back east for a while simply to get as far away from my parents as possible. Tell that story all the time. She passed the importance of independence on to me as well. I remember it so clearly. I was 15 and she said something like, it's time for you to get a job. And I said something like, how? And Anne said, just go in and ask if they're to a place you want to work and ask if they're hiring, and if they say yes, ask for an application. Like that was just something a 15-year-old would do. And I wanted to say back to her, can't you just do that for me? But I knew better than to ask that of Anne. I knew what the response would be. So I just said, okay, and I did. And then after that job, I did it again and then again. And it became pretty comfortable finding jobs on my own and working out what I liked and didn't like about each. Thanks almost entirely to Anne pushing me and expecting me to be independent and for Anne leading me. Anne, as you know, is also an avid traveler. Not just the travel part itself, but the planning, the reading, talking about it, dreaming about it. Emily, Anne's niece and my step-cousin, was basically my sister for the majority of our childhood. We're 2 weeks apart in age. Anne and my dad would take Emily and I on 2-week vacations every summer, every year, from the time we were 10 until we were 18. Trips included Yosemite, Orlando, an RV trip to the American Southwest, which ignited Anne's passion for American Indian art and jewelry, river rafting the Colorado River and the Grand Canyon, driving through the Pacific Northwest of Canada, going to Yellowstone and the Grand Tetons, traveling from the mountains to the beaches of North Carolina years before she was here, and going to Maui. Before each of these trips, Anne would research all the best spots, read to us in the car about the next location we were about to see and experience. All along from mobile phones or travel websites or social media pointing out all the hot spots. Anne just figured it out. She'd do all the important research. I mean, she was a professional at it. I have vivid memories from each of those trips that I'll never forget. There are many I could recount that capture the essence of the magic of Anne. I'll pick out one memory in Jackson Hole, foot of the Grand Tetons. It was the summer of 1995, early into our road trip from the San Francisco Bay Area where we lived, up to Wyoming. We learned that President Clinton and his family would be in Jackson Hole at the same time, by coincidence. It was apparently a favorite summer destination of theirs. As soon as we learned about it, Anne started planning out how we would meet them, how we'd all get along swimmingly, that we'd have dinner together and stay up late into the night sharing stories and just talking and enjoying each other's company, like normal friends. And we would even stay in touch with the Clintons. It was just so fun to escape and dream like that, and completely led that dialogue and that dreaming. We'd come back to the topic throughout the trip and plan out different scenarios based upon where we would run into the first family. Maybe it would be for dinner, maybe on President Clinton's birthday, since that was during the trip, or several other scenarios that Anne would dream up. Little did any of us actually think we would meet any of them. And then, while walking along a trail around Jenny Lake in Jackson Hole, we came headlong into a group of people in suits. They were very surprised to see us. I believe they thought they had cleared the trail, but we'd been off the trail at the lakefront having a picnic on some rocks and had just returned to the trail. We didn't know what was going on when we saw the people in suits. Anne's first statement was, "Are they taking prisoners on the walk here?" And then one of them started pushing us to the side of the trail and forcibly told us to stand in line shoulder to shoulder to stay there. Anne was starting to get angry and was complaining about our right to walk on the trail, until one of them said, quote, "Only shake his hand if he reaches out to you, do not approach him." And suddenly we all knew it was the president, the real deal, Bill Clinton. And in a flash, there he was, on a brisk walk by himself with a security detail leading the way. He reached out and shook all of our hands, wished us a nice day, and then he was off. It was casual and pleasant, and like it was totally a normal thing. And just as suddenly, we were just the four of us on the trail in the forest, alone again. No cell phones, nothing. Part of Anne's dream that had actually come true. It wasn't just a dream anymore. We stood there like that just happened. And then a few moments later, I think it was Anne or maybe Emily said, "It's his birthday today. We forgot to wish the president a happy birthday." There are so many more stories I can tell about Anne. Her passion for cooking a good meal and enjoying a martini in one of her super cool cocktail glasses, and having company over for dinner and good conversation.
After that. I'm out of safety first as well. When I mentioned Anne when talking to my husband's family, they would try to clarify who in my family I was talking about by saying, "The one who danced all night at the wedding?" Yes, that's the one. I think this is a good way to remember Anne too. She was never one to miss out on the joys of life. A cup of coffee with a favorite author's new release, a travel adventure far out of her comfort zone, a just right pair of shoes, or laugh with a friend, preferably with a martini in hand. She loved well. If you were part of her beloved inner circle, you knew it. You felt it. I did. For me personally, Auntie Anne was a favorite, including me on all of her own family's vacations growing up, and let me get away with things my own parents probably would not have. And then later, as an adult, she was there for me as a mother of my own son. She and Lisa helped me choose my wedding dress right here in North Carolina. She was in the room as my eldest was born, and home with me as I went to care for her. As her passing became imminent, I found comfort knowing she was about to join two of her greatest loves, George and Lisa. So for myself and those of us here who loved her fiercely, right back. I hope you dance. This is about starting working with Oh God. Megan, Anne's granddaughter. Growing up, I was incredibly lucky and spoiled to have somebody who loved me so much as her, like so close. I was trying to think of what I wanted to say, but for a while it was just too hard to think of anything. When I think of Anne, I think of her love to travel and how spoiled I was to be able to go on incredible trips with her. One memory that I always think of that kind of makes me laugh is when we went to Ecuador, and she was so impressed that I was able to navigate us through the airport. She was like, "Wow, your Spanish is so good." I had to point out that everything was written in English right up in Spanish. I couldn't take credit for my Spanish being that great. But I'm also very grateful that I just happened to be in North Carolina right before she passed, and I was able to visit with her one last time. But she was an amazing person, and thank you.
anybody wants to say a few words again.
Please read it. If you all are struggling on that,
I gotta go back and find it. You remember your email to me?
there you go.
So I'm reading this on behalf of Linda Tyler, who I mentioned earlier, was really Anne rock for many years. And without Linda, Anne would not have had the life that she had left, especially in the last like 5 to 10 years. So thank you very much, Linda. So this is Linda's message. If you ever had a friend that simply gets you, you understand my relationship with Anne. So many great memories of fun times, walks, impromptu dances, singing, finishing each other's sentences, and just reminiscing about our lives. Anne's compassion and generosity was humbling to witness. She was wickedly witty and such a gorgeous fashionista, with an innate sense of combining jewelry and fashion. During her long battle with Lewy body dementia, seeing her lose the ability to walk, verbalize her thoughts, become captive in her mind and body that was no longer hospitable toward torture. Thankfully, was no longer hospitable, was torture. Thankfully, we were able to keep her sharply dressed, groomed, and bejeweled. In fact, the executive director at the facility commented that Anne was better dressed than any of the staff. You have to know Anne to know how much she would have loved that comment. Dementia is not for the faint of heart. Sometimes Anne could lash out and her words would cut you to the quick. I asked her about this during a time of lucidity. She told me that she could see and hear herself, but she couldn't stop her words. She explained it best by saying it was the only way she could grasp control of what was happening to her. Anne was such an accomplished person. I can only imagine the devastation she must have endured at losing total control of her life. Thank you, Anne, for choosing me to be your friend and advocate to assist you through your journey. You taught me patience, a sense of enjoying life, and probably more than I ever wanted to know about dementia. You were totally worth every tear I cried, and most certainly you will remain in my heart forever. Linda. Does anybody else want to? Yeah, please.
Dan, I might just add a couple of words. Sure. My name is John Keller. I've known Anne for about 20 years. And in that time, we have served together on the Literacy Council here. And first of all, Raleigh, and then became our company. And now it's all over the world. Anne and I, say if you, I mentioned this earlier, if you join an organization and you start getting active, in 3 years you'll be the president. That's the way my nonprofits work. If you keep coming back, they say, he's going to be president. Anne and I swapped off being president. She would do a 3 years tour, and I would do mine. And then she would come back for 3 more, and I would do it again for 3. And then by the time they said, okay, that's it. You've done it. We've enjoyed our company. I've enjoyed our company. We work together on a common cause and good, wonderful support of the Literacy Council. And I just want to let you know that that's another side that maybe some of you might be familiar with. Where she and I are pretty well linked through literacy. And I appreciate your asking us to stop here. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
I'm going to read something that my Aunt Peggy sent in. She lives in Washington State and wasn't going to be able to attend today. So these are her words. She says, I will love Anne as a loving sister who loved life. From dropping in on me in Gustavus, Alaska, to all the family dinners she hosted over the years, the conversations and joy we shared. After a few tough years, I know now that she is in bliss with George and Lisa, living on with no limitations. Thank you, Anne, for sharing parts of your life with me. Thank you for the love, the acceptance, the sharing of grief and joy. Thank you.
Anybody else want to say anything? I had something to read from my brother. So this is from my brother Chris, who's 9 years older than me. And Chris is watching in Arizona. Hope the quality is okay. I first met Anne towards the end of 1988. My dad and her had been dating approximately 3 months. He said he would like to introduce Anne to me and have her over for dinner. So she comes to our Warm Springs apartment. My dad did the cooking and asked if Anne and I could run out to the grocery store because we believed we needed a fresh loaf of bread. So we agreed. On the way out the door, he said, oh, and can you grab a bottle of wine too? Sure, no problem. Off we went to Lucky's Grocery, which is actually where I worked as a bagger at the time. We got the bread and started heading toward the wine section. Anne says, so, Chris, what type of wine do you think will pair well with our dinner? I was like, well, first off, I'm 16 years old, and I don't know anything about wine, and second, if I was ever going to drink, wink, wink, it would be a beer. So she laughed and said something like, oh yeah, duh, what was I thinking? So I decided to pretend I was an expert in wine, to goof around a bit. It felt like the right moment for an icebreaker because we were both a little nervous. I proceeded to pick out certain wines and threw out the fanciest description I could think of. It worked. She made comments like, oh yes, Chris, that sounds lovely. Excellent choice. This went on for several minutes and we're both giggling. When we got back to the apartment and opened the door, we both started laughing about our wine discussion. My dad looked at us and said something like, well, I guess you two got along. So that was our first interaction. Definitely a great beginning. A few years later, I was about 6 months out from graduating high school. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had to sit down with Anne and my dad. She was the one who said they would support me if I wanted to join the military. I think her words were, you know, you don't have to go to college. That made me feel good, especially because my dad and stepmom Anne were highly educated. I thought they might be disappointed that I didn't have a burning desire to go to the college route. I did end up joining the Army, and it was a great experience. Thank you for that suggestion and support, Anne. Also, thank you for being a great listener, both of myself and especially my brother. I think I can speak for both of us that we've always felt you were actively engaged and interested in our lives. Okay, folks, thanks for letting me share some of my Anne stories. Love from Arizona, Chris. Yeah, that was my brother, sorry. Did anybody else want to say anything? If not, we can wrap up the speech part and eat and listen to music. Okay. I think we can all.
And I saw lights that shine slow like a dream. Can I say through changing ocean and I have season